Welcome to We Need to Talk for January 19th, 2017, one day before Donald J. Trump is sworn in as President of the United States, the 45th President. For today's episode, doing something a little different. I'm actually out in nature, not in my office. And if you can hear the birds chirping a little, let me be quiet for a moment. It's 5:57 p.m. here in East Texas and walking Tiaki right now. I wanted to share a little about, my own self. I came here to this country 11 years ago and as a legal immigrant from New Zealand. I came here because I was a Christian minister and I came here to serve the ministry of Winky Pratney. Some of you would know that name. I'm probably very surprised to hear it. And I'm actually here at the ministry location here in East Texas for a while. And there's a lot of nature around here, so I get to just walk. There's not very many neighbors. It's rural America. Never before have I felt the pride, though, that I feel right now to be living in this country. To not just have been observing this whole thing, but to really get the feel of what would happen if Donald Trump ran for president, and to start talking about that and seeing that start to unfold is pretty incredible. And to watch the PreInauguration messages and bands that were playing today, very emotional time. I guess I've never really had, because I came from a fantastic Western country, I've never had that immigrant experience that some have when they come from places like India and Pakistan and third world countries, and they get to come to this place and it's such a culture shock. It's so different from what they're used to. For me, it was very, very similar, of course. New Zealand culture is very, very similar to American culture. There are differences for sure, but far more similarities than differences. But to Donald Trump become the president of this country, and with what I believe I know inside of the things that are about to come, as we have this incredible entrepreneur become the CEO of the United States and begin to bring that level of leanness and efficiency and productivity to this entire country as he has to his building enterprises all over the world. When he starts talking about being so pro-Second Amendment that what he wants to see is nationwide right to carry. And, for any of my Kiwi friends that are listening, I'm very pro-gun, or rather I'm very pro-self-defense. And in New Zealand, we don't have guns amongst the culture, so it's a very different scenario, and you wouldn't understand what it's like. Why a Kiwi would be pro-gun, because it's very different here. This is the United States of America. It was created, this nation, through a revolutionary war. There's a lot of history here. And when Donald Trump gives people the right to self-defense, we see crime go down, because all the statistics show that the higher the rate of gun ownership in a municipality, the lower crime is. Now, it sounds counterproductive, but there is a good book you can buy on Amazon called More Guns, Less Crime. But to see the revitalization of the economy, to get tech geniuses alongside him in his transition team, people like Peter Thiel and others, and the business savvy, the common sense that we're about to see is going to be profound. It's going to take so many people by surprise. And we are not going to see this, some promises that have been made, and moving into the first and the second and the third year mark, and then have him run again for re-election as, well, we still haven't got all those things done yet, but if you re-elect me, we're not going to be dealing with that. That's not what this is about. This is something unique. This is something that people haven't seen in this country before, ever, in its entire history. Since this nation was birthed in the 1770s, we've never seen a man like Donald Trump take the presidency. Now, I don't know if you can hear, but those are coyotes in the distance that are now going crazy. Probably I was talking too loud, I don't know. I love being in nature. It's beautiful out here. So beautiful. The coyotes will be no problem. They won't come over here. But to just getting back to it, I mean, to see a man who's going to bring such energy to do things on time, to do things under budget, to get shit done, is something we've never seen. Not from anybody, not from Reagan, not from JFK, not from Bill Clinton, not from anybody. We've never seen what we're about to see before. And I think as an immigrant to this country, I think it's a little easier for me to see because I didn't grow up in the bubble. Every country is a bubble in its own self. I didn't grow up in the American bubble. So as I come here, as somebody who's been a serial entrepreneur my entire life, just formed my 10th company about 5-6 weeks ago, and I formed my first company when I was 19. I left the workforce entirely when I was 21. So I've always been building businesses, and when I've read books on success, and I've read books on personal development, business development, and the same books that Donald Trump has also been reading his whole life, including the books that Donald Trump has written. I have read and devoured, and when he first started running for president, I knew he would win, and so I started learning everything I could about him. I wanted to become an expert on Donald Trump. I wanted to get in his head, and that certainly helped me to predict his win. Well, let me also predict a little bit of the future of America, because I'm telling you, it's going to be grand. And I know a lot of my libertarian peers are on the fence, and the cynicism, it blinds you. You can't see. I'll tell you this. If it was between Donald Trump and Rand Paul, and I had the deciding vote, you would have Donald Trump as president. If it was a vote between Ron Paul and Donald Trump, that's maybe a bit tougher, but I probably still would have chosen Donald Trump. And there's a reason for it. It's not because he's more libertarian, that would be ludicrous, but it's not all about our frickin' philosophy. It's not all about libertarianism. And we get so caught up in our philosophy, we become all consumed by it. It becomes who we are, and we begin to self-identify with our philosophy. We become our philosophy. And that's not the way that we should view our philosophy in life. Think of philosophy instead as like a compass you can hold in your hand. It gives you direction. But you don't always go directly in that direction. You might come across an obstacle. You might come to a cliff. You might come to an extremely tall mountain. There's many analogies I could use. You don't go straight over the mountain. You don't just jump over the cliff. You find a way around. The compass is still in your hand. It still guides you. It's still helping you get to your destination. But you've got to understand that you are not the compass. You are not the philosophy. The philosophy is a tool. And if you begin to personally identify as the philosophy, instead of recognizing that the philosophy is merely a tool, then you're going to become so engrossed in it that you lose reason, you lose rationality, you lose insight, and you lose the ability to intuit what is going on. You become so emotionally invested in the philosophy that you can't possibly recognize anything outside of it as being good. I hope that's making some sense to you. I don't mean to be criticizing you and trying to help you see how we can become so caught up in our philosophy that we just become no good for anything but arguing and debating with each other. This country, under the leadership of Donald Trump, is going to be great again. It's going to be great like none of us have ever experienced. You know, our parents, I mean, for those of you that are American, back in the 50s and 60s, they saw these boom times, absolutely amazing wealth and prosperity, and over time it faded away. Well, we're going to return not just to the boom times of the 50s and 60s. It's going to be so significantly greater than that. As we enter an age of artificial intelligence, AI, and robotics, that will eventually take a lot of these jobs that are going to be temporarily brought back. I'm not naive. But all of this is going to usher in a new world. And we're going to have an entrepreneur, someone that understands how to get shit done as a leader of this country. We're going to see the downsizing of government. We're going to see people being lost through attrition in government. We're going to see fraud, waste, and abuse highlighted and dissolved. We're going to see radical efficiency brought to the government. I mean, the amount of tax income, the tax revenue the government gets is absurd, and it's wasted. You know, we can have a very small, lean, good government. Sometimes we think that only a libertarian government, which really taken to its logical conclusion is no government whatsoever. But sometimes we think that, you know, the only good government is a libertarian government. It's pretty bad right now, guys. We can get a lot better than what it is right now before we start moving into the golden, you know, libertarian ideals. Do you get that? Things can be significantly better, even if they are not something that Ron Paul would agree with. Although, I don't know if you're noticing, but I kind of pay pretty close attention to my good friend Dr. Paul. And if you go look at some of his posts the last week, somebody's coming around. And, you know, it can be hard for the leader of a movement like Ron Paul, who I hold obviously in the most deepest respect and esteem, but it can be hard for somebody who's the leader of a movement that absolutely adores you to come out for somebody like Donald Trump. But as Donald Trump does things that Dr. Paul would agree with, I hope that he will give him credit where credit is due. And I'm sure Dr. Paul, as will I will critique, I will call out the things that we don't agree with, that conflict with our philosophy, where our compass is pointing in an entirely different direction to what Donald Trump is going in. Then we must stand up and we must declare out loud that this is not right. This is not what is good for the country. But we've got to become better at marketing this message. We can't just rant and post online. I mean, it really doesn't serve any use. All we do is argue with each other, and we find the statists and the lefts and the, you know, whatever to argue with, and we're not actually doing anything. So, you know, the Libertarian Party, if it wants to play a role in libertarian philosophy moving forward, it needs a reformation. It needs radical change. It needs a new chair, and it needs new leadership. It needs people that understand the future. It needs people that understand respecting other people and dropping this entitlement attitude that is there right now, and being a party that can really unite us and stop being all about trying to win elected office and start being about bringing the greatest level of liberty to the maximum number of people. I get fired up. I get excited about the ideas of liberty and how this nation is going to slowly now, actually not so slowly, but now move towards these ideals. Things that Ron Paul has been talking about for a long time, auditing the Federal Reserve. I mean, that's huge. You know, I should do another episode where I want to talk about some of the similarities between Donald Trump and Ron Paul, because there's a lot of them. There's a lot of them. There's a lot where there is obviously very sharp contrast too, but there's a lot of similarities. As an immigrant, I've never been, until now, excited and passionate about living in the United States of America. I've never had that kind of feeling, that passion inside until now. And to be able to see a sea change take place right before my eyes, to see this country go through a second American Revolution, and to play at least a very small role, but a role nonetheless in watching and observing and having that happen, brought tears to my eyes many times today as I was watching the pre-inauguration experience, and just to see the patriotism and the pride that people have for this country, and the hope that now we're actually going to have a non-politician, a business person, come in and drain the frickin' swamp and make this country the shining star that it used to be. You know, it used to be when I was a child. I remember hearing about America as a little kid in school, and everybody looked up to America. It was the greatest nation on planet Earth. It was the epitome of the success of capitalism, and everybody looked to this country and wanted to be like America. And now it's not like that. It's not like that at all. I believe that with Donald Trump as president, that we are going to go back to that position. This country, once again, is going to be the country that the entire world looks up to and looks at it and goes, wow, what a comeback. A nation that picked itself up by the bootstraps and became proud again, and you know, caught that vision again of what it means to be an American. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to continue to spend my days here. I'm starting more businesses and companies here in the United States. I'm about to move into manufacturing, and I could only do that if not for Donald Trump, who is going to be radically reducing the regulatory burdens and reducing the taxation burden. Could never do it. But with Donald Trump, I'm about to start manufacturing things, big things, very large things. And I'm really, really excited that I get to live in this incredible free country. For listening to this tonight, I hope that this has maybe made you smile and given you some hope. And if you're thinking, well, I don't know, Israel, I don't know, maybe it'll be like you say, but I don't know. I just encourage you, let go of your cynicism. Just release it. Just shrug your shoulders and shrug it off. That cynicism does not serve you. It doesn't. It keeps you from being able to see the realities, no matter how absurd it might seem that it's really happening. If you don't shrug off that cynicism, it'll all happen without you even noticing it, and you'll never get to enjoy the fact that your country is going through another revolution. Don't be the person that's sitting back in blindness, pointing the finger at every little bit of minutia that you could criticize. Be the person that decides to look at all of the greatness that this nation can be. And then rise up and be that, and recapture that entrepreneurial spirit yourself. This country was built on capitalism and entrepreneurship, free enterprise. Recapture that spirit of entrepreneurship in yourself. Be an entrepreneur. Don't just be a wage slave. Find a better way. You have a fantastic evening. I've loved spending this time with you. I will see you tomorrow night when Donald J. Trump will be the 45th president of these United States. Good night.